Hello everyone, Joel here. Welcome to the ultimate guide for the 15 best open world survival craft games you should play. If you've been looking to punch trees, run for your life, and meticulously build a base that you'll inevitably abandon, you are in the right place. Let's dive straight into the madness.
Some of Gillinor's finest. They were bound for uncharted waters.
Let's kick things off with a massive nostalgia trip. This brand new 2025 spin-off essentially took the classic RuneScape grind and mashed it into a modern survival format. You'll be chopping wood not just to flex a 99 skill cape, but because you actually need a roof over your head before nightfall. The skill progression feels incredibly rewarding and seamlessly fits the survival mechanics. However, the combat feels a bit hollow. Pairing just doesn't deliver that satisfying visual or audio feedback, leaving you wishing for a bit more crunch when you smack a goblin. Still, with its robust early access co-op and those familiar vibes, it's an absolute blast to play with friends.
Chief Greenie went on and on about whole generations.
Moving right along from fantasy to terrifying realism, we stumbled directly into this brutal jungle nightmare. If you ever thought camping in the rainforest sounded like a fun vacation, this game will aggressively correct you. The survival mechanics here are brutally unapologetic. You have to micromanage your macronutrients like an obsessive gym bro just to keep your sanity from plummeting. The body inspection mechanic is a beautifully gross selling point. Nothing says fun quite like picking leeches off your limbs with a bone knife. On the flip side, the learning curve is less of a curve and more of a brick wall, and the inventory management can feel notoriously clunky when you're panicking. But hey, surviving a single night here feels like a genuine hard-earned achievement.
Gonna miss them again.
Now, if you want a break from being actively murdered by the environment, let's blast off to this cozy sci-fi adventure. This one is all about turning a barren, rusty rock into a lush, breathable paradise. It's essentially a terraforming clicker game mixed with survival exploration, and it is dangerously addictive. Watching the sky slowly turn from a depressing red to a vibrant blue because of your meticulously placed heaters and drills gives an unmatched dopamine hit. The downside, the map, while eventually beautiful, feels a bit static, and the late-game optimization can turn your PC into a heater itself when you've got hundreds of machines running. Yet watching your own oceans form makes it entirely worth the frame drops. Speaking of beautiful scenery, let's take a peaceful helicopter ride into this mutant-infested nightmare. This sequel took everything horrifying about the first game and gave it a gorgeous graphical overhaul. The building mechanics are arguably the best in the genre right now, allowing you to chop and place logs with a satisfyingly tactile feel that makes you feel like a master lumberjack. Plus, you get Kelvin, the beautifully brain-damaged AI companion who will gladly chop down the tree your brand new treehouse is currently resting on. The story, however, can feel disjointed and confusingly paced, leaving you scratching your head during cutscenes. But when you're defending your meticulously built compound from mutant cannibals, you'll barely care about the plot. If the haunted forest is too crowded for you, how about floating on endless garbage instead? This game turns oceanic pollution into your best friend. You start on a tiny square of wood and slowly hook floating debris to build a multi-story floating mansion, all while Bruce the Shark relentlessly chews on your foundations. The game's loop of hook, pull, build, and defend is incredibly relaxing until it isn't. The story islands offer fantastic exploration breaks from the open water. On the negative side, the early game grind is brutally repetitive, and once you finish the final story chapter, the endgame replayability completely nosedives into the ocean. Even so, the journey to get there with your friends is an absolute maritime delight. Before we continue the video, I want to inform you that right now, there are tons of crazy deals in instant gaming, especially if you love RPG games. Remember how expensive modern gaming lately? Well, not anymore, since you can get so many amazing titles with crazy discounts in instant gaming. Can you believe that just with $10 or even less than $5, you can enjoy one of the best gaming experiences in your life? Just look at these titles. It used to cost like $30 or even more than $40. And to make things even crazier, some games even drop so far to just $1. If you're a smart guy, you know what you have to do. All you have to do is just click my link in the description below, start searching for your favorite games, and use the activation code on your chosen platform. By using my link, you're not only saving tons of money, but also helping me to support this channel. Alright then, let's get back into the list. Let's sail back to land and zoom out a bit for a top-down management hybrid. Think of it as Terraria meets RimWorld, and it just recently hit its massive 1.0 release. You aren't just surviving, you're building an entire settlement and recruiting NPCs to do the tedious farming for you. The automation is top tier, freeing you up to explore deep dungeons. Plus, with the brand new 2026 roadmap bringing World Gen 2.0 and a highly anticipated romance system, your settlers are about to get very interesting. The combat is responsive and snappy, though the art style might feel a bit too simplistic if you're used to flashy graphics. Transitioning to something far more visually striking, we plunge into the misty lands of this voxel-based action RPG. It lets you carve out the side of a mountain and build a ridiculously detailed dwarven fortress block by block. The building system is so flexible it almost feels like cheating. Combat leans heavily into action RPG territory, complete with a sprawling skill tree that actually makes you feel powerful. The exploration is fantastic, but navigating the deadly shroud can sometimes feel more tedious than tense. Additionally, the quest structure gets quite repetitive, often boiling down to fetching items across a map that desperately needs faster travel options. From magical mist, we move to the glorious low-poly purgatory of Viking afterlife. The bees are happy, but you won't be when a troll sneaks up on you while you're mining copper. This title absolutely masters its atmosphere. Sailing through a violent storm feels genuinely epic. The food-based health and stamina system is a stroke of genius, making cooking a strategic necessity. The building stability mechanics force you to become an amateur structural engineer, which is immensely satisfying. However, the game suffers from brutal pacing issues. The swamp biome alone is a miserable slog that breaks many players, and the endless ore shipping trips can feel like a part-time job. Still, the feeling of conquering a new biome with your Viking squad is unparalleled. Now, if you hate peace and want your soul crushed by other humans, this game is for you. This is the undisputed king of PvP survival. The adrenaline rush of making a play with a primitive bow against a guy in full metal gear is intoxicating. The gunplay feels remarkably tight, and the proximity chat is an endless source of chaotic interactions. The electrical and base building systems are incredibly deep. But let's be objective, the game is unforgivingly toxic. If you don't treat it like a full-time job, you will wake up naked on a beach because your base was offline raided at 3 AM. Let's wash off that salt with actual salt water in this deeply terrifying underwater sequel. Yes, the follow-up is finally here in early access as of May 2026, and this time you can bring friends. Running on Unreal Engine 5, the new alien ocean is breathtakingly gorgeous and absolutely horrifying. Navigating the depths in the new tadpole submersible while dodging massive new leviathans is peak survival horror. The recent updates have already started ironing out the bugs. However, performance stutters are noticeable, particularly when rendering large bases in co-op. Regardless, plunging into these new depths is an absolute must-play experience. If you prefer the shadows over the ocean, this top-down hit will let you live out your ultimate vampire fantasies. It brilliantly intertwines ARPG combat with base building. You literally have to stick to the shadows to avoid burning to a crisp in the sunlight, which is a fantastic mechanical twist. The boss fights are challenging, requiring you to actually learn attack patterns and utilize your blood magic effectively. Building your gothic castle is incredibly stylish. On the downside, the late-game resource grind becomes excruciatingly steep, specifically requiring you to farm the same areas endlessly. Moreover, empty servers can make the massive map feel a bit lifeless if you're playing solo. But sucking the blood out of a high-level rogue never gets old. Swapping castles for galleons, we set sail into this brand new 2026 pirate survival hit. You aren't just punching trees here, you're building fully customizable ships from nimble ketches to massive frigates and engaging in brutal naval combat. It features a unique Souls-like combat system on land that actually requires parrying and dodging, which is a breath of fresh air for the genre. The seamless transition from ship to shore is technically impressive. Sadly, because it just hit early access, you will encounter some janky animations, and the procedural biomes can sometimes feel a bit empty between points of interest. But if you want to recruit a crew, sing sea shanties, and challenge Blackbeard, this is your ticket. Back on dry land, we have this chaotic fever dream. It's essentially monster catching with gun, sweatshops, and survival mechanics, and it works way better than it has any right to. The core loop of catching creatures and putting them to work on your assembly lines is undeniably hilarious and highly addictive. The traversal is fantastic once you get a flying mount, letting you explore the massive map freely. However, beneath the meme-worthy exterior, the AI pathing in bases is notoriously buggy, often causing your best workers to starve because they got stuck on a rock. The world itself, while huge, lacks meaningful questlines and feels quite barren outside of catching stuff, but for sheer sandbox absurdity, it's a brilliant time. Speaking of brilliance, we simply cannot talk survival craft without bowing down to this 2D masterpiece. It has been receiving final updates for a decade, and it just keeps getting better. The sheer volume of content, weapons, bosses, and accessories is mind-boggling. The progression from chopping basic wood to literally fighting a cosmic moon god is a flawless gameplay arc. The combat is chaotic, flashy, and deeply customizable. On the flip side, the initial learning curve is notoriously opaque. If you don't constantly keep the wiki open on your second monitor, you will be completely lost on how to progress. Furthermore, the early game mobility feels painfully sluggish until you get a grappling hook, but once it clicks, it consumes your life. Finally, we blast off into the infinite cosmos with the greatest redemption arc in gaming history. This open universe survival game is staggering in scale. You can seamlessly fly from the surface of a toxic planet into a space battle and dock inside your massive player-owned freighter. The base building is limitless, and the continuous free updates have added mechs, derelict freighters, and alien settlements. Yet, despite infinite planets, the procedural generation eventually shows its seams, leading to the ocean-wide, puddle-deep feeling where activities start feeling repetitive. The ground combat also remains fairly clunky and uninspired. Nevertheless, for pure uninterrupted exploration and chilling out in the stars, it is absolutely unmatched.